the reality is that companies don't expect to pay their sales reps their OTEs. I mean, that's the reality. The reality is that there's a CFO at every company who's sitting there with their VP of finance and with their CEO and the CRO inside of a boardroom, and they are expecting half the sales reps to not hit their OTE, maybe more. They're expecting a small percentage of sales reps to blow out their number. They're expecting the vast majority to kind of come in at like 80, 85, 90% of quota-ish. And they're expecting a bunch of them to fail and be fired. Like that's what they're expecting. I think it spawned out of frustration, really. I mean, no, I didn't like grow up being like, oh, one day I'm going to be the CEO of a company or I want to own something. Like, I didn't think in those terms. You know, I always thought in terms of what's really interesting to me, what's something I can work on that motivates me, that I'm passionate about, that, I can get up in the morning fired up about and go to bed not stopping thinking about. You know, that's really my bar for it. When I'm bored with something, I just move on and do something else. And I'd worked in sales, for a long time. And after a while, I was like, I really love selling products. I love managing sales teams. But man, sales as an industry and a profession is just freaking broken. Like I don't get it. The rat race, the high turnover, the high fail rate, 53% of sales reps in 2019 missed quota, so you're talking about a profession where the majority of people fail. When I see people talking about projections for 2021, there's a famous investor, David Sachs, guy who founded Yammer, and a really well-known guy, who's like, yeah, the way that you build a comp plan for 21 is you expect that 70% is what you're going to attain of your quota. So like you set a quota and you expect that you're going to get to 70% of it. And I was like, that's not how any other department thinks. It's not like you're like, oh yeah, we want to hire 100 people, but we'd be happy if we hired 70. Like no one thinks that way. And so sales has always had this culture of it's okay to fail. You're expected to fail a bit. Like sales is really hard, but you just got to keep pushing. And that to me felt like a profession that needed some change. Like why can't we expect every sales rep on a sales team to hit quota? Like, why can't we expect that? Why can't we build a culture where that's true? Why do we expect that we need to send 100 emails and get, 1 or 2 replies back and that's considered good? Why is it that we play volume all the time? Why is everything about just more volume instead of being more targeted, more prescriptive and more buyer centric with our approach? And so, I founded Bravado not because I was like, oh, I want to be the CEO or I want to be a founder. I founded Bravado because I was like, sales is freaking broken and no one else is fixing it. So I'm going to give it a shot, because I tried fixing it at individual companies, but I think it needs a reformation, a revolution at the structural, foundational level. So Bravado's mission is to elevate the profession of sales, put customers first, and kind of kill the Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, Wolf of Wall Street mentality that exists in sales.
You got me fired up now that you mentioned that about like disrupting sales, because I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's really challenging and frustrating for reps out there that are really giving it their all, but maybe don't feel like they have all the tools and resources and structure in place for them to succeed. I know you did a post on like LinkedIn and you talked about how like you wouldn't pay your product manager like 50% of their salary and then the rest is like bonuses, but like for salespeople, we pay them less and then we incentivize them with all these, like, how do we fix the compensation, or how do we change this mindset of like sales reps are like, why is it so different that sales reps have to endure all of these challenges, financial challenges, just to do their job?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that companies don't expect to pay their sales reps their OTEs. I mean, that's the reality. The reality is that there's a CFO at every company who's sitting there with their VP of finance and with their CEO and the CRO inside of a boardroom, and they are expecting half the sales reps to not hit their OTE, maybe more. They're expecting a small percentage of sales reps to blow out their number. they're expecting the vast majority to kind of come in at like 80, 85, 90% of quota-ish. And they're expecting a bunch of them to fail and be fired. Like that's what they're expecting. They're not expecting that from their engineering team. They're not like, oh yeah, we're going to hire 20 engineers and we're going to fire 8 of them by the end of the year. And then, 2 of them are really going to be awesome. And then a bunch of them are going to be like, okay, performers. No, they're like, we have the world's best engineering team. And like, engineers love working here and whatever. But the sales team, it's like, oh, it's just like, if they perform, they're in. And if they don't perform, we just find someone else. And the reason for that is because sales isn't seen as an academic profession. It's not seen as a real skill set. It's just seen as a ATM machine. You put in a 20, you put in a 40, and you hope you get something out of it. That's where the term coin operated comes from with sales. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to dangle this really big carrot in front of you. And if you can jump through this hurdle, then I'll pay you. And so sales is just seen as a revenue generation machine. It's like, I'm going to pay the sales rep $200K, and then they're going to generate me $1 million in revenue. But if they only generate me 800,000 in revenue, then I'm only going to pay them, 150K. If they only generate 500,000 in revenue, I'm going to pay them only 75K. And so all we're doing by creating the 50-50 split model is we're creating a world in which the profession of sales is not taken seriously. It's not seen as a serious craft. It's seen as like, you can hire anyone, give them a low salary, high commission structure. And if it works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's low investment from the company, low risk from the company. And that's why we don't invest as much in sales training. It's why the average tenure of a sales rep is so much lower than it is for any other profession. It's why sales professionals' inputs on things are rarely considered when it comes to making decisions on product roadmap, even though they're the only ones who are actually talking to customers. Like, there's a lot of things that are broken in the way that sales is perceived. And so I guess the TLDR of that is sales compensation is not what is broken. What is broken is the perception of sales. What people expect from sales is broken. The commission structure, the compensation structure, is a reflection of those lower expectations. Like, I don't expect my sales team to hit quota. So therefore I set a commission plan, which if they do happen to hit quota, I'll pay them. But if they don't, then I'm not risking that much. If a VP of sales expected their sales team to hit quota, they would just pay 100% of the OTE in base. Why wouldn't they? Because you're going to hit quota anyway, so I might as well just pay you so you have security and comfort and reliable income. But no, they don't expect you to hit it. It's like it's a task to achieve, which it's not in any other department. The marketing team gets paid the same amount of money whether their ad campaign goes well or not. Why? It's because if you are a marketer and you run an ad campaign, they expect it to go well. If you're an engineer and you release a feature, they expect it to go well. If you're an HR person and you help your company do performance reviews, they expect it to go well. Like, the expectation is that you will succeed at the thing that you are being paid to do, which is why you're getting paid to do it. In sales, you're not expected to succeed. You are rewarded for succeeding, but if you do not succeed, that is the expectation. And that, to me, is what is wrong with sales.
So I know that you post a lot about quotas and how we should eliminate them, destroy them, burn them, bury them. And you get I read some of the comments on these posts, and it's crazy how much backlash you get when you're really just trying to offer a different perspective. Why do you feel like quotas should be eliminated, and what should be replaced for quotas?
Yeah, so the reason why, and it's interesting, you talk about the backlash. What you don't see and what no one sees is the thousands and thousands of DMs I get from people saying, oh my gosh, Sahil, I'm so happy that you post about this. I can't publicly comment on this because I don't want my boss to see. I don't want my CEO to see. I don't want my VP of sales to see, but I want you to know how much I agree. Thousands of them, right? So the comments that you see on LinkedIn are typically left by people who are in positions of power, who are concerned that I am calling out something that is that is a material weakness that they're relying on. It's like when you point the finger at corruption and then the corrupt politicians are pissed at you. Of course they're pissed at you. And so it's the reality is this: quotas are are setting the wrong mindset around the job of sales. Quota is the measurement of a salesperson, right? We can all agree that the way you measure a salesperson is attainment to quota. Let's talk about that for a second. Let's say that you were selling Google AdWords, or let's say that you're selling Salesforce CRM. I mean, every sales rep at Salesforce or at Google Ads or whatever is closing millions of dollars more in revenue than the people who are working on like Bing or whatever, because if you have a great product, if your product is world-class, you have great marketing to support it, and it works and customers want it, then it's easy to be a sales rep. And so the thing is, product is what drives go-to-market, right? If you have a great product, you can sell it. If you have a shitty product, you can't. So is the salesperson's job to generate revenue, or is it to take, and I've talked about this before, the job of the product team is to figure out what is something that customers need that they're willing to pay for and to build that solution. That's a job of what is product, that's product's job. Marketing's job is to find those customers who have that need but don't know about the product or the company, and market it so that you become aware. So product is responsible for figuring out what people have a pain point around, something that they're willing to pay money to solve and to build a solution for it. That's the job of product. Marketing's job is to take people who have that same problem but aren't aware that this new solution exists and make them aware of it. Sales's job is to take the people who have this pain and help them actually solve the problem. And in doing that, revenue is part of the thing that comes out of that. So the mindset that salespeople are responsible for getting signed contracts is broken. The mindset that a salesperson's job is tied to quota is broken. The entire company's job is to hit quota. There's no person at the company whose job is not to hit quota, is not to generate revenue for the company. If you're a PM, your job is to build a product that generates revenue. If you're a marketing team, your job is to generate marketing campaigns that drive customers in, that lead to revenue. Every single person's job is to generate revenue at a company, not the sales team's job. The sales team's job is to take demand for a product, awareness around a product, and convert that demand into a successful implementation of the product, which is everything from an SDR team, which like gets people, qualifies them and helps them understand if they're a good fit or not. The AE, the sales engineer, if you've got a more technical product, the implementation team, the account management team, the CS team, all of these people work together in order to serve the customer, serve the end market. Makes no sense to me that the sales team is measured off of quota. The sales team should be measured off of his customer satisfaction. How satisfied are the customers with both the service that they got and the product that they received? They should be measured off of things like renewal rates. How likely is the customer to renew next year or the year after or the year after? The job of a sales team is to ensure that the right customers buy the product and really get value from it. And so to me, it's like every single person at the company's job is to generate revenue, not just the sales team. The job of the sales team is to serve the customers who are aware of a problem and help them find solutions to it. And as soon as we get into that mindset, I think we'll start viewing sales as a profession really differently.
Do you feel like quotas create pressure on salespeople to the point where that pressure causes maybe a decrease in performance, or like how does like that? Because I feel like so many sales reps out there are stressed because of this lofty number that they have to hit, which I'm not sure if it's achievable or not. How does that play into like the actual performance of a rep?
Yeah, definitely there's pressure, but there's pressure in a lot of jobs. The sales is not uniquely a more stressful job than other professions are. What it does is it creates perverse incentive. What quotas do is they create the incentive for you to sell a customer who isn't a good fit for your product, but has the budget to buy it, versus spending time with a customer for whom this is a good fit, but maybe they don't have the budget right now or whatnot. And you basically start chasing dollars instead of chasing value. So if the sales team is measured off of the amount of revenue that they close, they're only going to spend time with customers who have budget. Now, the weird thing about that is companies that have, everyone has budget, but it's like your willingness to part with it and how high of a priority is it and whatnot. And so what often ends up happening at a sales team level is, I will see a company is not a really great fit, but they're a really big company and they have the ability to spend money for this. So I'm going to spend more time with that prospect than someone who is a much better fit, but maybe can't spend the full price tag, but can only spend a portion of it. And what that ends up doing is it ends up acquiring worse customers for the company. So then now I, as the company, have a customer on who isn't a good fit. So now my CS team is scrambling to try to make them happy, and my account management team is frustrated, and my product team's getting a bunch of requests. And ultimately that customer is going to churn because they weren't a good fit anyway. But I, as a sales rep, don't care because I'm like 6 months, a year later, I'm like chasing some new deal. Like, I don't care. It just creates the wrong incentive structure. It's like, why am I being measured on the contract that someone signs before they've even used the product? Like, that's a stupid way to measure me. I should be measured based on how much value the customer got from the product. That creates the incentive for me to sign better customers. If I got a bonus every time one of my clients renewed, imagine how I would think differently about my job as a sales rep. Imagine that I got every 6 months, the customer was pinged, hey, how much do you like the product that you bought? Are you going to recommend it to your friends? And if they say, yes, this product's awesome, I'm going to recommend it, I get a bonus. Imagine how I would then qualify a customer. Imagine what kind of questions I would ask then versus what we do today, which is basically, can this person sign on this dotted line? If so, I'm going to badger the shit out of them until they do, which is exactly what ends up happening.
This is amazing, man. Thank you so much. I guess, to your point earlier, how most sales organizations just look at sales as a game of volume as opposed to strategy. I know you're really big on leveraging LinkedIn, social media to raise awareness, to promote, to add value. How has like a content strategy, or again, taking a different approach with the way you communicate what Bravado is, how Bravado helps online, as opposed to maybe like hiring 40 SDRs and having them cold call and reach out to a bunch? Have you noticed just some of the feedback or some of the results that you've gotten from maybe just that strategy alone?
Yeah, I mean, look, the reason I use LinkedIn in order to communicate is because that's where salespeople are. I believe you got to go to where your customers are, right? Like, I see so many salespeople posting on LinkedIn when their customers are like HR managers, or like their customers like, finance professionals or whatever. And like, and then all of their likes and all their comments are from other salespeople. And I'm so confused, I would never post on LinkedIn if I wasn't building something for sales. I never used to post on LinkedIn until I was building something for sales. I only started because I was building something for sales. It's because it's useful for my business. Like, and that's the thing that I think people miss. People are like, oh, go build your personal brand on LinkedIn. Like, no, don't build your personal brand on LinkedIn. Build your brand where your customers are. If I was selling to software engineers, I would be on Stack Overflow. I'd be on GitHub. I'd be on all of the sites where engineers are. I'd be on Hacker News, and like, I would be spending my time where my audience is. Like, if you're a salesperson, you have to be consumed by your industry, by your prospects, by your customers, by your competitors. Like, I would be spending my time doing demos of my competitor software, not making posts on LinkedIn. I make posts on LinkedIn because I am building something for salespeople. Salespeople are on LinkedIn. So therefore, that's where I post. I don't post on Twitter. The reason I don't post on Twitter is because salespeople are on Twitter. If every salesperson signed up for Twitter, I'd start posting there too. Like, it's, you follow your audience, right? Like, you got to find where your audience is and pitch them. Like, it's not hard, right? I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just stop doing what everyone else is doing and being a lemming, and like, think strategically about your business and be like, well, I really want to achieve X. And in order to achieve X, I need to reach this audience. So let me find out where that audience is, and then let me go build my brand there. Like, not that hard.
Just like reverse engineering in a way.
Sure. I mean, life is like chess. I write about this a lot. You know, life is like chess. Um, the beauty Queen's Gambit on Netflix came out
Yeah.
recently, and it really kind of repopularized chess.
Yeah.
So now I don't sound as nerdy talking about it. Helpful for me. Everything in life is basically determined by your ability to think ahead, which is to say, imagine I told you, hey, Mateo, here are the 5 stocks that are going to be, 5x their value at this time next month. What would you do? You'd rush out and buy every single one of those stocks right now and put every dollar into them, right? Obviously, like anyone would do that.
Oh yeah.
The point is, who knows the answer to that? Well, that's what financial traders and hedge funds and bankers are paid to do. They're paid to prognosticate and try to guess which stocks are going to go up and why is that going to happen. And then based off of that, they're going to turn, I wrote about this previously where right when the pandemic started hitting, I bought a shit ton of Zoom stock. And the reason why I bought so much Zoom stock is because, and my wife and I talked about it, I was like, as soon as everything shuts down, then all that's going to matter is like, I need to still talk to customers. I need to talk to my team, et cetera. Like I need to do these types of meetings. And the best technology in the market to do this is Zoom. Like Zoom's going to blow up, right? So we just bought a bunch of Zoom because we're like, it felt, now that was easy for my simple mind to see. Like it wasn't that hard of a thing to figure out, but that's the sort of thing that you should be doing with your career, which is to say like, and I applaud you for doing what you're doing with Sales Dev Squad, where you're like, look, there's a, billion SDRs in the world and, interchangeably don't know who any of them are. You're like, if I can create content for other SDRs and that's going to help raise your profile, but it's also going to help create learnings and help other people get better at their jobs. So they're going to see you as an authority figure, and then you get guests on. And so like, you're planning through your career. You just got to be able to do that. You got to think a few moves ahead. You got to be like, well, here's where I'm trying to get to. Now let me make a plan of how do you reverse engineer there. And the same thing is true in an individual deal, just to be clear, right? On an individual deal basis, your ability to think, well, if I send the customer this email, what is the likelihood they will respond? And if so, what will they say? If you get asked a question by a customer, hey, how much does this cost? Hey, before we begin the conversation, Mateo, I just want to know, how much does this cost? There's a lot of sales advice out there where people are like, oh, the right way to handle a pricing objection is, and I'm like, you're all freaking idiots, right? That's not true. Every single situation is contextual. There are certain buyers who are asking that question because they're like, look, if this thing costs over 20 grand, there's no way I'm going to buy it. And so for those people, you'll want to cushion the price lower, right? You want to say, hey, we have a range of pricing and, it can be anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 a month and we'll figure it out. And, it kind of depends on what options, can I talk you through what it looks like and whatever. There's certain people who are asking, not because they're confined by budget. They're just asking questions because they're like, I just want to know what's going on because like, I'm curious. For those people, maybe you want to stick them with a higher price. You want to be like, hey, it could be anywhere from 50 to 150K, right? So like, your ability to decide, should I say 1,000 to 2,500 or 50 to 150K, is based on your ability to read the person in front of you. Read, why are they asking that question? Sure, you can ask them. You can say, hey, why are you asking me that question? But everybody lies. I'm not going to tell you the truth. And so great salespeople, like great chess players, are able to predict, like if I say 50 to 100K to this person, I think this person is going to say, oh, that's way too expensive. This isn't a good fit. So I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say something else so that I don't scare them off. Versus I want to say a high price to this person because they're really interested in this product and they have a lot of money to spend. And if I say a low price, they probably think that the product's like cheap. So instead, I'm going to say a higher price and then I'm going to pigeonhole myself as a premium product because I know they can afford it. Like, your ability to do that instantly as a salesperson is what makes you great. Your ability to constantly read the room and know how to react to situations. Most people just don't. They're just reading off some script or they're just like using whatever token answer their sales team told them to give. And that's why most people aren't great at sales. Like sales is all about your ability to adapt to situations and think on the fly.
Appreciate that, Sahil. That's amazing, man. I know we're coming to the end of the podcast here. Do you have any closing thoughts for any sales reps that might be struggling to just find success during COVID? Obviously, like a really challenging time for a lot of salespeople. Do you have any just like words of wisdom or some feedback for sales reps that might be struggling right now?
Get deep, personal, intimate with your customers. It's the only thing that matters. Like there is, in the time of COVID, people are starved for personal relationships. People can't see their friends, they can't see their family. We're all stuck on these stupid Zoom meetings. Like, you know, the world has become more distant. There's no more happy hour to go to after work and just have a beer with a buddy or whatever, right? That stuff is gone. So where are we today? We are today in a world where people crave personal friendship. They crave connection. If you can build a personal relationship with your customers, with your prospects, with your industry, if you can become a friendly face instead of a sales rep to them, they will want to talk to you. They'll want to spend time with you. They'll want to spend money and do business with you. That's it. Like, don't spend your time anywhere besides where your customers are, and truly invest in building a great relationship with them. I mean, that's, if you're not interested in befriending and building deep relationships with your prospects, you shouldn't be in sales. Like, that's not, you're in the wrong job. Like your job, like, you know, if all of your prospects love baseball and you hate baseball, too freaking bad. Time for you to learn baseball. Like, that's what I'm talking about. You know, like you have to invest in understanding what your customers love and be like walking a mile in their shoes. Like that's what great sales reps do. You know, they build meaningful connections with their prospects by being really curious and interested in what they're up to and being where they are. It's the only thing you can do today.
Can't thank you enough, man. I guess for anyone out there listening that wants to pick your brain further or learn a little bit more about what you're doing at Bravado, where's the best place to reach you?
Just go on to Bravado. You can search me up, find me there, message me directly on the platform, and happy to connect. You can find me on LinkedIn, obviously. Happy to connect here as well. More than happy to chat and spend time with anyone who aspires to a great career in sales.
Go follow Sahil on LinkedIn. He's always posting a lot of great content, and we will catch you guys on the next one.